our concept? Columbian exchange. And what do we write for definition?
Global
Exactly. The global transfer of foods, plants, animals, people, ideas, and microbes. What are microbes? Diseases. Very good. During the colonization of the Americas. Right. So I'll give you a couple minutes to write that down.
Exchange animals?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Mr. Glenn.
I'll write that. The definition. I'll write that. The whole thing.
Come on, Kayla.
My mom wants a cat, like a cat.
Bing.
Have you ever seen
All right. Anyone need more time?
Yes.
Need a little bit?
Why did you call it the Americas instead of America? Of America.
Why do we call it the Americas instead of just America?
South America. Oh, yeah. Okay, I didn't.
Central America.
Okay, I got you. I'm a little
All right. Everybody good?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you
Oh,
done? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So here's what we're going to be doing today, right? We are going to list the people, ideas, diseases, plants, and animals exchanged during the Columbian exchange, as well as begin to understand the positive effects and the negative effects, right? Because the Columbian exchange, right? There's going to be pros and cons of the contact between these people, right? The essential questions are: what are the positive and negative effects of cultural diffusion? What was the impact of the Columbian exchange on the Old World? And what was the impact on the New World, right? And then the enduring understanding is the Columbian exchange began in 1492 and was a diffusion of culture and ideas and continues through globalization and cultural diffusion today, right? So just as we talked about the Columbian exchange began in 1492, why do we say that it hasn't ended?
Because
we're
you
still
still have the trades.
Yeah, we still trade with one another today, right? So Latin America and Europe and Africa and North America, right? We all trade with one another, right? There's always culture and goods and items being exchanged, right? So it starts in 1492, right? But it doesn't have an end, right? It's still going on, right? So here is a map of what the Columbian exchange looks like, right? And so we talk about the Old World, right, which is Europe and Africa, and the New World, right? And why do we call it the Old World?
Because it's been over like
That's where everybody
This is
came.
the old
Yeah.
world.
Okay, but it's not where everybody came from, right? Because there were people here.
It's just like colonizers.
They're older.
They're all dead.
So who would say it was the Old World?
People from
Yeah, the Europeans, right? So the Europeans began to call it the Old World, right? Even though this world that they called the New World was old as well, right? Yeah, so they said that they found Latin America, right? But didn't really find it. People were already there, right? So, but that's kind of the terminology that we're going to use anyway, right? Is that terminology. So we have the Old World here, and we have all these things that were spread from the Old World to the New World, and then we have things that were spread from the New World to the Old World.
Dang, I have a lot of disease.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're going to talk about those diseases, which it's pretty scary.
Well, isn't it because there was a lot of people there and it was very crowded?
In the Old World in Europe, yes, it was very crowded. Yeah. So the New World wasn't as populous as Europe was. And Europe, they lived in city and really kind of nasty cities. And so, yeah, there was a lot of disease, like the bubonic plague that you may have heard of. Yeah. But we're going to talk about all of the things that were exchanged. And the first thing that we're going to talk about are animals. Yes, right? And so we talked about under characteristics, you can just jot some of these little things down. So animals were exchanged. So domesticated animals did not exist in the Americas before 1492, right? What do I mean by a domesticated animal?
So like
Pets.
Okay, a pet. What are, like dogs and cats? What other animals are domesticated?
Sheep.
Sheep, right? Very good, right? What else?
Any barn animal.
Any barn animal, like a chicken or a cow, right? Livestock, And why do we call them domesticated animals?
They're not wild.
Because they're not wild.
They're not wild, right? We own them, we use them for our own benefit, right? And yeah, it seems a little sad, right? But what do we use them for?
Money.
Money, resources, food. What else? They help us with things. What do they help us with? Tasks, farming, right? Very good, right? So they didn't have any of those domesticated animals in the Americas, right? They were brought over from Europe to the Americas. They didn't have horses before 1492. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. So the Europeans brought over horses, cattle, sheep, right? All of those things to the Americas. What effect do you think that would have?
A lot of effect.
What effect? Okay, so they started owning animals. Very good, right? So they would own horses and cattle. What else?
More food.
More food. Why? So, why do you think that?
Because with the pigs and stuff,
Mhm.
they create community.
Okay, so pigs would give, kind of a steady source of food, right? If you, instead of having to go out and kill a buffalo, right, you would just go to your barn and get a pig, right? What other effect?
Farming.
Farming. What do you mean by that?
Like crops and stuff.
What effect would that have? What effect would that have to do? Food is more accessible, right? Because if you have an ox plowing your field, right, that's a lot better than having to do it yourself, right? So that's a big effect, right? So that's going to change the way that land is used, that you farm, right, all throughout the Americas. We also have plants, right? So we talked about that a little bit, right? But from the old world, they brought lots of plants like citrus, coffee beans, grapes, wheat, right? So they didn't have wheat in the Americas before 1492. And from the New World, they brought chocolate, corn, potatoes, squash, tomatoes, right? So we see that exchange of food going on, right? So what effect would that have? You have more variety, right? So a more varied diet is good for you, right? Yeah.
Didn't they bring them tobacco?
Yeah, so tobacco actually originated in North America, right? And was brought over to Europe, right? So what effect would that have?
What drink?
It originated in North and South America and was brought over to Europe.
It was with them along the coast,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they farm tobacco, and when America establishes its colonies, or England establishes its colonies, it's going to be like in Virginia, and Jamestown and things, right? And so what is tobacco? Okay, yeah, it's a drug, right? You put it in cigarettes, right? Does it make a lot of money?
Yeah.
Yes, right? It makes a ton of money, right? So that's gonna, make the Europeans a lot of money, right? And also, get them addicted to cigarettes, which isn't such a great thing, right? So we have the exchange of plants going on. We also have diseases, right? So smallpox, measles, diphtheria, whooping cough, chickenpox, bubonic plague, scarlet fever, and influenza. Those were all originated in Europe, right? And so in Europe, they were all used to these diseases, right? Their immune systems, right, were used to these diseases kind of being all around, right? They had kind of gotten strong to those diseases, right? But what happens when they bring them over to the Americas?
They're not ready for that.
They weren't ready for it. What happened?
They
died.
They died, yeah.
Right when they came, there was like a huge
Outbreak.
increase in their population.
Definitely, yeah.
I forgot
So
what it was called.
yeah, they started dying in thousands of these diseases, right? And so this was something that was, what effect would this have?
Less population?
Less population, and what would that allow the Europeans to do?
Settle more areas.
To settle more areas, right? And what else?
Still more land.
Steal more land. What else? Control them better, right? So if there are less people to control, right, because they're all dead of disease, right, it's easier for you to establish your colony, right? Yeah. So it's super harsh, yeah. So the only disease that was brought from the New World to the Old World is syphilis, right?